While most Americans were focused on the latest iPhone release or Tesla's stock price, a quiet revolution was taking place halfway around the world. A revolution that could fundamentally alter who controls the future of America, is energy independence and automotive dominance. China has been methodically building what experts are calling the most sophisticated electric vehicle empire in history, and they've done it using 5 strategic advantages that they definitely don't want the United States to figure out how to copy. To understand just how dramatic this shift has been, consider this. In 2020, China produced about 30% of the world's electric vehicles. Today, they manufacture more than half of all EVs globally, and Chinese companies are consistently outpacing traditional American and European automakers in both innovation and market share. But here's what makes this particularly concerning for American interests. This dominance isn't the result of some lucky break or natural market evolution. It's the product of a carefully orchestrated industrial strategy that took over a decade to build and cost the Chinese government approximately $231 billion through 2023. The first secret that China has mastered is something that would make Henry Ford himself envious. Complete vertical integration across the entire electric vehicle supply chain. When General Motors or Ford wants to build an electric vehicle, they need to source components from dozens of countries, coordinate with hundreds of suppliers, and navigate complex international logistics that can take months to orchestrate. Chinese companies like BYD have taken a completely different approach. They control everything from the lithium mines to the charging stations, and they've done it all domestically. This vertical integration runs deeper than most Americans realize. China controls 80% of global lithium chemical production, despite having less than 7% of the world's lithium reserves. Think about that for a moment. They don't own the raw materials, but they've positioned themselves as the indispensable middleman for processing them. They dominate 67% of lithium refinement processes, 70% of cell manufacturing for the EV industry, and 74% of lithium-ion battery production. For the United States, this means that even if an American company wants to build electric vehicles domestically, they're still fundamentally dependent on Chinese-controlled supply chains for the most critical components. The strategic implications become clearer when you consider what this means for production speed and flexibility. While a traditional American automaker typically needs 4 years to launch a new vehicle model, Chinese EV manufacturers require merely 1.3 years. Some emerging Chinese companies can release 3 model updates within a single year. This isn't just about efficiency. It's about the ability to respond to market changes, incorporate new technologies, and stay ahead of competitors at a pace that makes traditional automotive development look glacial by comparison. But perhaps the most striking example of China's manufacturing revolution can be found in BYD's megafactory in Zhengzhou. This facility covers 50 square miles. That's 10 times larger than Tesla's Nevada Gigafactory, and produces over 1 million electric vehicles annually. The factory operates like a self-contained city, complete with worker dormitories, shopping areas, medical centers, and recreational facilities. This level of integration creates unprecedented efficiency in both production and logistics, allowing Chinese manufacturers to achieve economies of scale that would be nearly impossible to replicate in the United States under current regulatory and labor frameworks. The second secret reveals itself in how Chinese companies have fundamentally reimagined the timeline from concept to production. While American and European automakers follow traditional linear development processes, design, prototype, test, refine, test again, then manufacture, Chinese companies employ parallel development processes that compress these timelines dramatically. They use sophisticated simulation tools to build virtual prototypes and conduct testing faster than competitors who rely on time-consuming physical testing methods. The result is that Chinese manufacturers can transform initial concept models into mass-produced vehicles in just 18 months, approximately half the time required by American and other global car makers. For American workers and the broader economy, this speed advantage translates into market share that's being captured before domestic manufacturers can even respond to changing consumer preferences or technological innovations. By the time Ford announces a new electric vehicle platform, Chinese companies have already iterated through multiple generations of competing products. The third secret lies in something that traditional automotive executives are still struggling to understand. Chinese electric vehicles aren't just cars with electric motors. They're computers on wheels with cutting-edge digital features that Western manufacturers struggle to match. These vehicles integrate artificial intelligence, autonomous driving capabilities, interactive voice control, multiple touchscreens, entertainment systems, and even karaoke functionality. While American automakers have been focused on traditional automotive metrics like horsepower and towing capacity, Chinese manufacturers have been building vehicles that feel more like smartphones than traditional cars. This software advantage is particularly pronounced in autonomous driving technology. Chinese companies have developed dozens of unicorn companies focused on intelligent driving, with systems like Baidu's Apollo platform already in its 6th generation. Unlike Tesla's vision-based full self-driving system, Chinese manufacturers often use LiDAR-based autonomous driving that provides superior performance in complex urban environments. The implications for American technological leadership are significant. While Silicon Valley companies have been the traditional leaders in software innovation, Chinese EV manufacturers are demonstrating that they can match and sometimes exceed American capabilities in the integration of software and hardware systems. Chinese manufacturers also excel at leveraging software to update vehicle features after purchase. Companies like NIO release cars with latent technology, including spare processing chips, that allow frequent addition of new features through software updates. This creates ongoing value for customers and provides a competitive differentiation that's difficult for traditional manufacturers to match without fundamental changes to their development and manufacturing processes. The fourth secret represents perhaps the most strategically concerning advantage from an American national security perspective. China has secured what amounts to a stranglehold on the critical materials essential for electric vehicle production. The country controls over 90% of the global refined supply of the 4 rare earth elements used in EV motor magnets: neodymium, praseodymium, dysprosium, and terbium. A typical electric vehicle motor contains 1.74 pounds of these rare earth components, making them absolutely indispensable for EV production. But China's dominance extends far beyond raw material extraction. They control 85% of rare earth refining and 90% of rare earth metal alloys and magnet production. This means that even if the United States were to develop domestic rare earth mining operations, we would still be dependent on Chinese processing capabilities to transform those materials into usable components for electric vehicles. Establishing alternative processing facilities would take years and require billions in investment, during which time China could leverage export restrictions as geopolitical tools. We've already seen glimpses of how this dependency could be weaponized. Recent export controls implemented by China briefly disrupted global automotive supply chains, demonstrating the vulnerability that American manufacturers face when critical materials are controlled by a strategic competitor. For American energy independence and national security, this represents a fundamental weakness that undermines the strategic value of transitioning to electric vehicles if that transition makes us more dependent on Chinese supply chains rather than less dependent on Middle Eastern oil. The fifth and final secret showcases China's approach to creating the infrastructure foundation necessary for mass electric vehicle adoption. While the United States has struggled to build a coherent national charging network, China added 4.2 million EV charging points in 2024 alone, a 25% increase from the previous year. This infrastructure provides approximately 1 charging point for every 2.7 electric vehicles on average, creating the kind of charging density that eliminates range anxiety for consumers. But the charging technology itself represents a significant technological advantage. Chinese companies are pioneering ultra-fast charging systems that can deliver 400 kilometers, or about 250 miles, of range in just 5 minutes. They're also advancing battery swapping technology, where depleted EV batteries are exchanged for fully charged ones in under 5 minutes, essentially eliminating charging time entirely. For American consumers accustomed to 5-minute gas station stops, this technology could represent the breakthrough that makes electric vehicles truly competitive with gasoline-powered cars in terms of convenience. Chinese battery manufacturers like CATL have achieved breakthrough innovations including semi-solid-state batteries with 600 and 50-mile range capabilities and are developing all-solid-state lithium metal prototypes with potential ranges of over 1,300 miles. These advances position Chinese companies at the forefront of next-generation battery technology, potentially making current American battery development efforts obsolete before they reach commercial scale. What makes these 5 secrets particularly challenging for the United States to counter is that they represent more than individual technological advantages. They constitute a systematic approach to industrial dominance that integrates government policy, private investment, technological development, and supply chain control into a cohesive strategy. China didn't stumble into electric vehicle leadership. They planned it, funded it, and executed it with the kind of long-term thinking that American quarterly earnings reports and election cycles struggle to accommodate. The data shows that replicating China's approach would require the United States to develop similar vertical integration, dramatically accelerate manufacturing processes, advance software capabilities, secure alternative sources of critical materials, and build comprehensive charging infrastructure. But perhaps most challenging of all, it would require the kind of sustained government-industry coordination that has historically been difficult to achieve in the American political and economic system. For American workers, this shift represents both a threat and an opportunity. The threat is obvious. As Chinese electric vehicles become increasingly competitive in global markets, American automotive jobs could be at risk. But the opportunity lies in the potential for American innovation to find alternative approaches that leverage our strengths in areas like software development, advanced manufacturing techniques, and materials science. The strategic question facing the United States isn't whether the electric vehicle transition will continue. That's essentially guaranteed by both climate policy and consumer preferences. The question is whether America will be a leader or a follower in that transition, and whether our approach will enhance or diminish our economic independence and national security. So here's what this all means for America's future. China has demonstrated that electric vehicle dominance requires more than just making cars. It demands control over the entire value chain, from mines to charging stations, supported by unprecedented coordination between government policy and private sector innovation. These are the secrets China has used to reshape the global automotive industry, and they represent the blueprint that other nations must understand if they want to remain competitive in the electric future. The real question isn't whether this transformation will continue. It's whether the United States has the political will, industrial capacity, and strategic patience to develop our own approach to electric vehicle leadership, or whether we'll find ourselves increasingly dependent on Chinese technology for what may become the most important transportation infrastructure of the 21st century. What do you think? Is this the kind of challenge that will bring out America's innovative best, or are we looking at a strategic defeat that was decades in the making?